Thanks for that, SM. And I'm here tonight with a full house. Actually, we've got all the boys together. Cruyff,
Hello.
Cooksen.
Talking to yourself is clearly the height of ego.
Oh, it's just I couldn't find anyone of equal greatness to cross to myself, so I had to just go out on a limb. We've also got NUFC,
G'day guys.
and we've got Milang Panthers,
Evening.
and joining us for the first time, Friar Tuck.
Like the crab. Oh,
Uh,
well, that's
so-
that's Thai for hello.
bringing a touch of foreign class to the podcast. Got to lift your game a bit, Cruyff, tonight.
Okay.
Hey, what's up? Yeah, so got to stick with traditions, fellas. Very important.
Absolutely. So have you all enjoyed the off season?
I think it was good to get a bit of rest for the players, and we came back, and our goalkeeper has now won 3 trophies in 3 games. I think it's very good.
Yeah, well, you only beat a second.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, go Cookson.
Well, philosophically speaking, it was quite good.
Philosophically speaking,
That's rhetorical.
you gonna elaborate on that or no? You're just gonna leave it hanging out there.
I don't know. They probably partied. Players come in. Some of them are leaving who are failing medicals because they lack spines.
and testicles, which I think are in their wives' purses, perhaps.
Yep, because suddenly Eurovision's more important than winning.
Cheers. And Milang Panther, you must have been pretty stoked with some of the signings so far. With Kabaya, a pretty impressive one.
Yeah, I've been pretty stoked with that since we've signed him, and a few of my mates supporting teams at the start just take notice of us, so that's pretty good to know. So, whereas when we first got promoted, obviously they'd pretty much never heard of us, so starting to make some waves, which is good.
Yeah, it's always enjoyable, and obviously NUFC, it's the other side of the coin for you. Didn't get Kabay back to the club, but at long last you've made a couple of signings, which can only be a positive.
Yeah, definitely. I think we were the last club to actually sign anybody this window, but somebody's managed to steal Mark Ashley's checkbook, so we've got a few signings, which is good.
And Friar Tuck, I mean, we had Nigel Pearson sacked in the off-season pretty unexpectedly, I guess, after he secured Premier League.
What's that? Nigel Pearson's been sacked since when? Every last I remember, we were swimming so nicely. We were about to sign Cambiasso, and when did this happen? no, really, that was a complete shock to the system. No one saw this coming. Well, we're just trying to regroup and move on from there, and hopefully, well, all things positive from here on in.
Yeah.
You have the Tinkerman as the coach now. You will do very well. I bring all of my players and we play together.
If it's anything like Chelsea's 03-04 season, I'm looking forward to it.
We draw a 20 game and we do well.
Well, we might start with the man of many talents, and I'll ask you, Cruyff, how you've seen Arsenal's off-season, because it's in some ways quite a good one. In some ways, you could have done a bit more. I mean, bringing Czech in is obviously a pretty big coup, but no one else through the doors as of yet. So how have you seen it?
Well, I think the signing of Mr. Czech was very pivotal for the team. Wojciech Szczesny has now gone on loan to Roma, and we have the Czech goalkeeper now. And as I said earlier, he has won 3 trophies in 3 games, unbeatable record for any player ever, and he will look to improve on that.
Well, I mean, it's not surprising that it took a Chelsea player to bring some trophies to Arsenal, I suppose.
I know, seriously, I think Czech will be a good signing, as I think most people will agree with, but it would have been nice to see more effort done to sign other players prior to a week being out of the season. But, I mean, there's still another 4 weeks of the window left, so we don't know what will happen. But, I mean, it would have been nice to have another defensive midfielder or striker on the books, but I mean, I guess we'll wait and see what Arsene does and take it from there. But the signing of Czech is definitely a very positive one. I think one the club's been crying out for since the days of Jens Lehmann.
Now, I posted to Looney in the first half about whether seeing Arsenal competing for the title with Czech sort of leading the charge would leave him bitter or not, and he found it very difficult to say that he wouldn't be bitter. Do you think that Czech could sort of push you up into that top bracket of clubs, or do you still think you need another couple of signings to get there?
I think Czech helps us get closer to what we were last year, but we need more signings, I think, as a season overall, because you don't know with injuries, fatigue, and whatnot, with what can happen. But I think the signing of Czech definitely does enhance our chances.
Where do you see yourself finishing?
Second or third.
Second or third? So do you reckon you'll be in the title race, or more kind of like last season where you sort of...
Well, if we start strong and actually keep playing like that for the whole season, well, there's every reason that we could be, but Arsenal tend to start slow. But now they've actually signed a goalkeeper who can actually keep. There's no reason why we can't be in the title race, but I mean, it'd be nice to think that we'll be there come season's end, but I mean, we'll find out. But I don't know. I haven't answered your question very well, and I do apologise to our listeners. But I don't know. I'd like to say yes, but I'm always with Arsenal. You have to be pessimistic as a fan.
His Arsenal season will go like this. They'll start out good, everyone thinking title chances. Then it'll come around Christmas. They'll be crap, not win a title. They'll draw some either a German side, French side, or some random Eastern European side in the round of 16.
Gee, that narrows it down. That really narrowed it down there.
Well, you always play Bayern Munich.
We can't draw an English side, so you've said we'll draw a German side, an Eastern European side, or a French side. The only other possibility is either a Dutch or
Spanish, Portuguese,
or a Spanish side, or a Portuguese.
It's still bigger than 6-8. It's
Are you guys have to qualify, don't you?
It's in the back.
When's the qualifying game?
The should be Tuesday, I think, or Wednesday.
Who's United drawn?
Hasn't been done yet, though.
Oh, okay.
Then it might be next week.
Because I was going to ask if the chances of you guys getting Fenerbahce and coming up against Van Persie.
Yeah, he's cooked.
And Nani.
Does anyone else have any questions for Arsenal?
I got one for Cruyff.
Yes.
I believe I saw a headline yesterday where Roy Keane suggested that Arsenal won't win the title race based on some of the players being more obsessed with six-pack selfies and just generally taking pictures of themselves, I guess. I was just wondering if you had any comments on Mr. Keane's words.
I generally don't pay attention to what leprechauns say.
I take that as an affront to myself.
No, I think Keane does have a point that the Arsenal players are maybe a little caught up in I guess it's a generation thing now, but it would be good to see them focus more on winning and whatnot. But I guess they're celebrating and enjoying the moment. So, but I do see Keane's point.
And of course, last season they were more focused on having a couple of ciggies.
Yes, thankfully that president has left our club now. So,
And the other one's got an ankle injury, so he's not playing anyway.
The other one's actually talented though.
Yeah.
But I think Szczesny's time at Arsenal is done. I don't think we'll see him in an Arsenal shirt again.
Fair enough. Well, we might move across to the other North London club with Cookie, who's covering Spurs for us. How do you see their season unfolding?
Well, it'll probably be similar to last season. I mean, pretty decent overall compared to other clubs, but they're probably still going to finish around about 5th or 6th.
How do you rate the players they've managed to bring in?
So they've brought in Anderwild, who's very good.
Alderweireld?
Not much for that stupid names.
Have to call you Type Club.
Or Country Race?
Then we have Kevin Wimmer, who I know nothing about.
Austrian BM, I think.
Yeah, Austrian centre-back from Cologne. And player from Burnley. He was very decent last season, good young lad. But again, you just look at them and it's really much the sameness, really. I mean, apart from Kane and Ericsson, there's no real players that you're going to be scared of when you face them.
And with Kane, I mean, there's a lot of questions whether he can back up.
Yep, whether he'll be a one-season wonder or will he be the next Alan Shearer? We'll find out. But yeah, I mean, the sold players, gotten rid of some dead weight. Apparently, you look at all the money from the Bale, apparently there's about only Ericsson and from that window would be considered above average.
Lamella, the jury's still out on probably, but apart from that, I'd probably agree. What's everyone else's take on Spurs?
Lol. No, Spurs will be around the Liverpool sort of benchmark, I think, like that sort of mid-table, mid-club level sort of thing where they belong. But if Kane can fire again, there's no reason why they can't finish 6th or thereabouts again.
Fair enough. Well, we might move on then to another club that could arguably be pushing into that middle of the road bracket, which is Crystal Palace. Millang Panthers, how have you seen your off-season? I mean, we've already touched on the purchase of Cabaye, but how have you looked in pre-season and what are you expecting for the season?
Yeah, it's been pretty good signing-wise, along with Bamford, who's scored a hat-trick in his first game for us, so that's a pretty good start.
Are you just stacking your side with strikers?
Pretty much midfielders, yeah. We've got about 2 for every spot. So, but yeah, at the moment it's looking pretty good. Like we've only lost twice, but it's pre-season, so that's not to be unexpected. So, but yeah, and probably just as important as Cabaye's re-signing Scott Dan as well. That was quite a big deal for us to get. I think that's almost equally as good. So, I was pretty pleased with that as well. Yeah.
And how have you rated the shift in style under Pardew? Have you noticed much of a change, or?
Not yet, but apparently I haven't watched the pre-season games yet. We're not playing as wide as we were, which is a bit of a surprise considering we've got Balassi and Zaha out in the wings. But I don't. Yeah, apparently might have been testing that just in case one of them went down or, Balassi left or something like that. So
that's
we'll just have to wait and see for the first few games, yeah.
I don't think that's such a bad thing, though, because it shows you're versatile and you're not one-dimensional and you can actually play through the centre if you need to.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Are you looking to offload any of your strikers? I mean, I joked about it, but when you think you've got Murray, Gale, is Campbell still there as well?
Yeah, Campbell's still there.
And have you just brought in Wickham?
Yeah.
Was
yeah,
it?
Don't know if that's official yet or not, but
Okay.
yeah, pretty close to it apparently.
So what's that about
We're
6 decent strikers?
Yeah, we're
Too? Shannon?
yeah, well, yeah, still 6 decent strikers. But yeah, apparently Murray might be leaving, but I really hope he doesn't because he deserves a full crack at the Premier League, I reckon, because he's good enough. He scored enough goals last year.
Yeah, he hit pretty decent form last year.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I'm hoping he stays. I hope they'll stay at the club, really, but I guess we can't keep all that in the one squad, really. So,
And I guess
hard to keep them all together.
from an Australian perspective, how's Jedinak's spot in the team looking? I mean, there was some doubts towards the end of the season whether he'd hold his place in the side, and I guess bringing Cabaye in now, your midfield's looking a bit stacked.
Yeah, that's it. But it's hard to tell because from a leadership perspective, he's massive. But yeah, like people criticise his passing and stuff like that. But I still think he'll play more games than he won't this season.
Yeah.
So if he stays, of course, which I'm pretty sure he will. But yeah, I think he'll still have a pretty big role to play with us this season. So.
And where do you see yourselves finishing?
Where do I hope hope to stay up again, I guess. But yeah, obviously we've got to push on from that. I hope just ahead of last season. That's like keep building, pushing a little bit further. But yeah, we've got a bit of a tougher start to the season this year compared to last season, but we still had a pretty average start last season anyway. So couldn't get much worse than that. We still finished 10th. So hopefully, just build on that. Maybe 9th or 8th, maybe, if we continue this form. So, that'd be good.
Fair enough. And so from one club managed by Pardew to one that was formerly managed by Pardew, NUFC, how are Newcastle looking for the new season?
Pre-season form's been a bit shaky. I think we've only had 2 wins and 4 losses and a draw. I suppose that could be in part to the Wally or the Brolly implementing his new game plan for us. So I'm a bit curious to see how we'll line up for the Southampton game, which is our opening fixture. We've made some fairly impressive signings, I would have thought, in terms of players that I probably didn't think we were realistic chances of obtaining. So that's promising, but we still need a few more, I think, to make sure we don't have the troubles that we had last season where we almost went down.
What's the mood like amongst the supporters? Are they a bit more optimistic for the new season? I mean, given you've got a new manager, the checkbook's been out a bit, so maybe Ashley's changing in his ways and that sort of thing. Is there a bit more optimism around?
I'd say there is a little bit. I think there's still a bit of pessimism in some sections of the fan base. The signings that we've made have definitely helped get some of the supporters back on side. But I think we're still quite light in terms of our depth. We actually had, you might recall, Mike Ashley saying, well, he had his first televised interview on the last day of last season, saying that he was going to try and change things, that he wanted to win something.
Yeah, I think he said. I think he said he was staying until he won a trophy. So I guess they'll be taking his body out in a coffin.
Hopefully, it won't be that long, but yeah, he did say something to that effect. So at least, I guess, the spending has shown maybe there is some truth to his words, that there is some ambition. I believe McLaren wasn't really anybody's first choice, except some of the board members at our club, for the manager role to replace best coach in the league, John Carver. But but in saying that, kicking him out of the club certainly given us cause for a bit of optimism and hope. So I guess cautiously optimistic at the moment.
Where do you reckon you'll see yourselves finishing?
Well, as most people know, we're a bit of a circus of a club. We could be anywhere from probably 8th to 18th, I reckon. I think Steve McLaren has said that he wants to finish top 8 and have a good cup run. I think that's personally a bit ambitious, just on the squad that we have available. I'd like to see a top 10 finish, but I think maybe in the 10 to 14 bracket might be our spots on the ladder.
There's still one important question needs to be asked.
Yeah, what's that?
Has McLaren mastered the Geordie accent yet? So can he speak like a Geordie like?
I'll be curious to see his press conferences if he does have a crack at a Geordie accent, but as far as I'm aware, he hasn't tried one yet. So.
He'll go the full Joey Barton and pick up the local accent. like when he was in Marseille.
What is wrong with that?
Well, we might move on then to Friar Tuck to chat to us a bit about Leicester. We touched on it a bit earlier with Nigel Pearson leaving the club, but you've made a few acquirals over the summer, with a few more on the way apparently. So how do you see the squad building, I suppose?
Well, for a start, we're getting back up in the right places. Centre defence, defence was our biggest worry last season. We found a bit of stability once we had Morgan, Wazzle, and Huth. The first big move we got was Huth from Stoke. I think it was also a part deal that we helped them raise the price of one of their players just to help raise the price, and we'll get a better deal in exchange for the $3 million tag, I think it was. We got Fuchs was also a big was also a big addition because, well, we had Kaczynski. And, well, let's be honest, he's not. We already know about him. So
Did he get the most red cards last season in the Premier League?
did.
Yeah.
I think he also cost us. He cost us more than a few games as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, Fuchs is massive. He can play a bit of centre back as well and left wing. So far in the pre-season, he actually looks more convincing as a winger than a centre back. But no, that's all right with me. We've got two very competent left wingers ready to give it their all. Although Fuchs did play a bit on the right wing, which seems a bit weak now that Danny Simpson looks a bit crap, to be honest. So good to know he can play both sides.
With Mia as the boss, you never know who's going to play.
And what's your take on Cambiasso not signing on for another season? Obviously, probably a little bit of a hit to the confidence for Ranieri. That I think he came out pretty publicly and said that he really wanted Cambiasso to stay on and help him. Obviously, wasn't the case.
I tried.
Well, there's a few interesting stories in that one, but to be honest, I'm just glad we got the 1 year out of him. We were expecting a year. Anything more would have been a huge bonus. To be honest, I don't actually think he's that much of a loss. If I had the option between Huth and Cambiasso, I would have definitely picked Huth out of that lot. Cambiasso is starting to age a bit, and we need to start moving on from there. So, yeah, thanks very much, Esteban. Thanks for helping us stay up. Hope you enjoy wherever you go, just as long as it's not anywhere in England.
Yeah, and I guess you'll remember the cracker he scored against. Was it West Ham or who was it towards the end of the season where he scored?
It was West Ham.
Was it West Ham? Yeah. To kind of it kind of launched your winning run, I guess.
Well, that was nice to get the victory, but I think honestly where it really started, the Tottenham 4-3 gave us a bit of confidence that yes, we can start scoring goals. Why don't we try put a run together, tighten things up at the back? But I think it was the West Brom game where we felt we can really do this. I mean, 2-2 at the Hawthorns, last minute play, Jamie Vardy, Max Cleary, and rest is history. And it was from that moment on I felt we're definitely going to do this.
Well, I mean, it was interesting when we played you guys. I remember Steve Bruce basically saying that if we beat you, you wouldn't be able to overtake us. And I thought it was a bit silly because I thought even if we lost that game, you guys weren't going to be able to overtake us. And you know how wrong I was in the end. But you can't help but feel a bit aggrieved that there were a few missed chances from Hull that if we'd put them away, maybe we would have stayed above you because maybe that would have dented your confidence too much. But it's one of those hypotheticals, I guess we'll never know. But we might move on, Dan, and I had a look at Norwich's business so far, especially because I brought attention to it by their purchase of Robbie Brady from us for $7 million, and I can't help but feel when they're being suckered into buying him for $7 million because we basically just kept knocking their bids back until they raised it to a point where we were happy to agree to it. Doesn't look like they've had the best of summers, and when you look into it further, they've got Doran's in from West Brom for $3 million. They've got Malumbu also from West Brom for free. But apart from that, they haven't really done anything. They've brought in Wisdom on loan from Liverpool, but that's about all they've done. And admittedly, their squad that got relegated from the Premier League was still basically all together. They'd sold Snodgrass to us, and I think somebody to QPR, Leroy Fer to QPR. But apart from that, they've not done a whole lot to convince me that their squad will actually stay up this time around. And the manager himself doesn't inspire a whole lot of confidence because he's had one stint in Scotland where he was a player manager at Hamilton Academical, but then he's only had half a season with Norwich now, and he got them to the playoffs and won the playoffs, but he's very much unproven.
Just remember, there's no Suarez, so that's probably going to help him with goal difference.
Well, they also got belted by Man City, so that's the issue. And so Guerrero's still around, but at least they're guaranteed an easier run against Liverpool.
Probably going to beat Liverpool. Liverpool is shit.
Well, we'll see what Liverpool ends up doing. But I don't know. I mean, Norwich are an interesting one. I was saying in the first half of this podcast that the three promoted clubs are very hard to pick on who'll stay up and who'll go down because they all have different strengths and all have different weaknesses. I mean, Norwich, yeah, they have pretty much a Premier League squad from the last time they were up, but then managers got very little experience and they haven't done much over the summer. Watford have brought in a lot of players and they've got their Italian and Spanish connections, but again, managers unproven and they've spent a lot already, so I don't know how much they'll have left to spend. And then obviously Bournemouth have never been in the big league, so it's hard to pick who'll stay up out of those three. As it seems to be, no one's got any ideas.
I think Watford's a good chance, I reckon. But
Okay, all right. Who wants to go first?
No, go for it.
Okay, looking at Norwich, they have a nice attacking squad from what I saw. Some of the players look a bit dodgy, but I honestly think out of the three of them, I think they would be the most likely to actually stay up. I mean, as you said, they've gotten a bit hardened with their Premier League experience, and well, as I said, sometimes you perform better. Some players just perform better in the Premier League than they do in the Championship sometimes. So, out of those three, I'd back Watford. Bournemouth, well, sometimes the champions, what works in the Championship doesn't necessarily work in the Premier League. I think they've signed a fair lot of players, haven't they?
They haven't bought many either, no. They've got in a bit of experience. They've brought in Baruch, Federici, and Distan as a bit of experienced heads in the squad. But apart from that, I mean, Josh King for $1 million from Blackburn, who he was on loan at Hull for a little bit, so I got a look at him and doesn't hugely inspire me as a signing. And then Tyrone Mings from Ipswich for $8 million. It's an odd position to spend $8 million on, I'd have to say.
I know.
But I mean, Bournemouth to me kind of, I'll actually just go into them now then I guess, but they kind of remind me a little bit of Swansea when they came up. You know, that story of coming up from League Two, implementing a footballing philosophy through the club, this brilliant young manager in Eddie Howe who, I mean, the story's just incredible about how he's brought them up through the leagues. And they're doing it with playing a really fantastic style of football. I mean, they scored, 98 goals as champions of the Championship, and they only conceded 45. So it's not as if they were having, 5-4 victories and that sort of thing. They were keeping teams pretty limited. So they might struggle to begin with, but then so did Swansea when they came up, and then by the end of the season, the Liberty was a fortress, and Swansea were looking pretty solid.
Yeah, but we probably just don't know which teams will do well and which ones don't, because I think we predicted it last season. I think we got it all wrong. So
yeah. I mean, I think last season we predicted Burnley to go down and QPR probably to go down. They were pretty obvious picks, but I can't remember who we had as the third one. I think it might have been Sunderland, but I'm not too sure.
Or Leicester.
Always managed to stay up. I'm not sure. But yeah, it is always very hard. I just feel like this season especially, all three have different sort of variables in their favour and different things counting against them. So it's a tough one. But we'll move on then and chat about the other end of the table, and we'll swing back around to Cruyff to chat about Manchester City and their title chances.
Raheem the Dream, the new number 7. I mean, what else can be said? He's booed. He gets booed by Liverpool fans, but his name was Sook like one Mr. Adam Good does. But
let's not touch on that.
I think City still have some problems down back there. I mean, Sterling's obviously a fantastic signing, and I think he'll hit the ground running and do very well for them overall. But their problem lies down back, I think, and I don't think Company is a player he once was. I don't think they've properly replaced Dimi Callis. Mangala has the strength and force, but I still think he needs to adapt to Premier League life a bit better. I can't think of the other centre back right now. Kolarov's weak on the left. Clichy's weak on the left. Zabaleta never looked what he did last season as the season before. Okay. And I think if Zabaleta can return to form prior World Cup, I think that will help them a lot. But I mean, the defensive midfield area too with Pellegrini's tactics just doesn't work because they're horribly exposed off down against Stuttgart overnight in 30 minutes or something. So if a German side can do that to them, with all respect, imagine what some of the better Premier League sides can do.
I mean, yeah, Bojan was saying in the first half of this podcast that, I mean, when you consider that they've spent 50 million on Fernando and Fernandinho, and then you look at Juventus bringing in
Sami Khedira.
Khedira, that's it, basically on a free, and you think, money can be spent much more wisely than perhaps Man City have spent it recently.
I think Fernandinho and Fernando are good players in the right system, but Pellegrini doesn't use the right system to play to their strengths, and it leaves them exposed with Yaya going forward so often and Silva and so on. But
I'm very surprised that Yaya's still there. I think
He got his birthday cake this year.
Maybe that might have been agent talk. I guess we'll never know. But I guess a year ago, people would have been surprised to see him at City at the start of this season. But based on the preseason games in Australia, he did look quite good and back to his old self. Yeah. But I mean, I think with City, it's mainly a tactics thing, and if they sort out that pivot and their central defence, they might do all right. But it looks like Pellegrini is doing a bit of Wenger and deciding to be stubborn, and it's his way or the highway.
Does anyone see Pellegrini staying out the season?
He's sacked. He's gone at the end of this year or that. I mean, have a look at the team. Company, he's overrated.
I don't think he's overrated. I think injuries have got the better of him, and they've caught up with him, and he's not the player he once was.
Yeah, but he still gets rated as the best when he's just not. I mean, Zabaleta's old. I mean, their squad is quite old. I mean, honestly, it's the Manchester Geriatric Centre.
It'll be interesting if they replace Dzeko with someone. If Dzeko goes to Roma, it would be interesting to see if they pick up another striker to cover his loss.
I hear Liverpool's selling one.
He did all right at City. How many did he score against you in the 6-0?
One.
He scored the first one. That's the one that matters.
Scored more than your whole side.
We scored one goal that game.
Oh, okay.
Backfired a bit. Well, we might move on there to another 6-1 game, which was Stoke against Liverpool. So we'll chat about Stoke now, who actually faced Liverpool in the first game.
There's an old adage, you're only as good as your last game. And Liverpool look complete crap, but that's because the Barcelona of the West Midlands.
Well, you christened them Barcelona early in the season, and they've certainly lived up to it, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, they just want to sign all the ex-Barcelona players. I mean, we're finally figuring out the answer of can Leo Messi do it on a wet Wednesday night at Stoke. But you look at actually their team, and to be honest, it looks a bit different from the old hoofball of the Pulis days.
Was that hoof or hoof?
Hoof.
With respect to our Leicester guest, how did you see their bid for Shaqiri? Perhaps not a realistic chance of getting him, but it certainly seemed to show ambition.
It was bizarre.
It was comical, I thought.
Comical? In what sense?
That I think a player of his caliber wouldn't. I've been to Stoke, and it's not that great a place.
Yeah.
I can't think of a footballer of his talent and caliber would be at home in the West Midlands and whatnot. I think he's at Schalke now, or he's on the verge of a move to Schalke. But I mean, ambitious by Stoke, but I think deep down they knew it was never going to happen.
The thing is, though, I mean, those players don't actually necessarily have to live in the area, and the point's made as well whenever people talk of moving up to somewhere like Hull, or even Liverpool and that sort of place, that if they don't want to live in the city, which might not necessarily be a great city, they can live outside the city. I mean, it's not that far to commute to the ground. But I mean, yeah, I guess the English climate in general, and obviously Stoke not really necessarily having the ability to compete on the same level as a Schalke or a. Where else has he been linked lately? I think Dortmund were linked to him.
Inter. He was at Inter.
Yeah, he's been at Inter. Yeah.
But,
Bayern Munich.
Yeah, that's.
But I mean, Stoke have brought in Afellay and Bojan in recent times, so.
I think they've made some good signings in this off season, and I don't think they'll be easy beats. So
I mean, if Bojan continues to play well and recover, I mean, he's a man who broke Leo Messi's records at Barcelona. You'd expect him to get a transfer to a bigger club down the line. And they've still got very good wingers with Apolé and Aratonovic, and again, they're just a solid side. They're going to be mid-table, there or thereabouts.
It'd be interesting to see how they cover the loss of Begovic.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jack Butland, by all reports, is quite a quality young keeper, but whether he can take that step up and be a consistent first teamer is the big
definitely.
question.
And Crouch, I think, is okay as well. I mean, he gets laughed at, but I don't think he's a poor striker by any means.
Do we think he's starting to come towards the end, though? Will age start to catch up with him this season?
I mean, I don't know. He's not really a guy who relies on mobility. He sort of holds the ball up and then just they put it on his head. But if he can sit in the box for majority of the season and still knock balls into the back of the net, there's no reason why he can't keep going, I think.
Yep.
Where do we reckon Stoke will finish?
11th.
8th to 12th.
Yeah, about 10th or 11th.
I'd say the same, 10th, 11th, around there.
Fair enough. Well, a club that's had a pretty big off-season in terms of changing manager, buying in quite a few players is West Ham, who've made quite a few decent signings as well. And I think NUFC, you're going to have a look at them and rate their off-season.
Yeah, they've brought in 7 players, I believe. The biggest name is probably Dimitri Payet from Marseille, who actually, I think, led the way for assists last season. And I think I read he was second behind only Messi for through balls in Europe's top 5 leagues last year. So I guess with Big Sam, there was the association that maybe he played ugly football. So I guess bringing in Payet seems like they're going to have that shift in their philosophy to a more attacking, more fluid type of system, I believe. They've also brought in Ogbonna from Juventus, who's another pretty impressive signing, I would have thought.
What was his name?
Ogbonna.
None of the jokes, Cruyff, after earlier.
Keep it PG for the folks at home, please.
Come on, Cruyff.
I apologise.
But yeah, they've got a bit of depth down back, actually. They've got Winston Reid, Jimmy Tompkins.
They got Jenkinson back in on loan.
Yeah, they got Jenkinson back on loan, which he did quite well last season there. And I think Creswell was one of the surprise packets as a fullback. Was quite impressive as well. So certainly they look quite solid down back. I think for them the real question will be how their potential Europa League commitments affect their season.
I was going to bring that up because I think Friar Tuck was sort of keeping track of their earlier progress, and their season started back in early July, I believe.
Yep, early July.
And they've done their best to shake the Fair Play award that got them into Europa in the first place. I think they've had 3 dismissals already.
I think they've got the second leg of their. I think it's the last round of qualifiers coming up on Wednesday or Thursday this week. I think they were playing somebody from Romania from memory.
Right, the cup winner from Romania.
Oh, what was that?
It's the cup winner from Romania.
Oh, really? Okay. There you go.
High flying side.
Yeah. As we've sort of seen, the Europa League, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it seems like some Premier League clubs would maybe rather avoid the commitments of playing the midweek fixtures around Europe. I think Everton last season, and even Spurs and Liverpool, and even the Toon struggled with the Europa commitments a few seasons ago. So if they go further into the competition and they get a few injuries, then it could potentially result in their domestic form struggling a little bit.
Well, I think we saw that with Valencia getting injured in the first leg. I think he's been ruled out of the return leg already, but and it's apparently described as a serious injury, but I don't know how long that means he'll be out for missing Premier League action. But injuries are already starting to hit them.
Yeah, I believe I had a look over their squad, and I think up front is potentially their weak Achilles heel. They've also got Andy Carroll, who's, as we know, a bit injury prone. But that being said, I think he still scored 5 goals from something like 12 starts last season. So if he can stay fit with Payet and Kuate and Noble and a few others there chipping in, he will probably, with the right service, still be able to have a good return. But it's just a matter of trying to keep him on the park.
Yeah, fair enough. Where do we see West Ham finishing?
I think probably around 10th. It really depends on how. Well, first of all, if they can get into the Europa League, assuming they want to actually participate in it, and secondly, whether they can keep their squad fit. They've got quite a good team on paper, but if they have a few injuries, then they'll have to rely on some of their younger kids to potentially fill gaps, which might cause them to struggle a bit. But yeah, I think sort of mid-table will be about par for them.
Fair enough. We'll move on then to Everton with Friar Tuck, who've brought in Delafeo on a permanent. I think was it last season or the season before they had him on loan, and he went quite well for them. They haven't done a whole heap. I mean, they brought in Cleverly as well, I suppose, but
Delafeu.
Reunited Martinez back in their Wigan days. And to be honest, I thought I was looking at Newcastle because they've only spent £4.4 million. And that's all of their ins. And that was about, I think it was July 1st, early July, all these transfers went through.
Yeah.
The big news involving Everton, as we all know, is John Stones. Chelsea trying to get him there. Obviously, well, the most thinks he's John Terry's successor, basically. But I think, to be honest, 20 million's a bit on the short side. I think he can be. He's a real good player. I think he can be a real centre stone for Everton. So hopefully they can hold on to him.
Yeah, I mean, the talk is that they want 34 for him, and I mean that's not unrealistic, I would think. And Looney seems to think that there could be moves being made by Chelsea in the coming days because Mourinho wants his 2 defenders in before the first game of the season. So it will be certainly interesting to see if they can test Everton's resolve. As you say, I mean, they're not spending very big, so a bit of money going their way would sort of boost the coffers a little bit.
Well, I would like to think so, but just looking at the club, it's a far cry from what was happening last season. Last season we had Lukaku and his £28 million and how he's going to take Everton places. I mean, let's face it, they were 5th the season before that. They really should have been pressing on, maybe for a Champions League spot, if not around the same place. You're finishing behind Crystal Palace. That's yeah.
Whoa! Shots fired.
Crystal Palace is a good side. Don't get me wrong. You can't expect from Everton. They've been top 7 for a few years now, and if that's the best they've got for it, I don't think things are looking too bright on the blue side of Toffee Town.
I think the return of Delafeu will help them.
It will, but that's not. You want more for a team that's really realistically looking for top 8 at least. They need more than that.
I feel the habit of Everton lately has been sort of to take players on loan and then once they seem to have settled into the side, bring them in on permanent deals. I mean, we've seen it with Barry, Lukaku, and now Delafeu as well. And obviously Cleverly's come in on a free deal as a player that Martinez knows quite well. So I feel like Martinez has played it very, very safe in the transfer window throughout his time at Everton. And I wonder if he's just being a little bit too cautious.
I think he is being way too cautious. Honestly, I can see him not lasting the season if Everton don't
I was going to ask that, yeah.
Mm.
I think they really need to be in the top 10. They really need to be fighting. I mean, Swansea's gone ahead of them. Southampton's ahead of them. Stokes ahead of them. And soon to be Crystal Palace and maybe even Leicester. Our last year was a bit of a stretch.
Just slip that one in, yeah.
Just slip it in, yeah.
Yeah.
But they need to show they're being serious business. I mean, I mean, last season was really disappointing. Injuries didn't help, but the results lackluster. They need to be in the top 10 constantly this season.
Where do you see them finishing?
Uh, I think I had them. I think I had them in eighth behind Liverpool, but that's what. That's what I expect if everything goes smoothly. But if they pull the same baloney from last season, I can easily see them fighting mid-table, maybe a slight relegation scare. So I'd say 8 to 14th, perhaps.
Yeah, you'd really want Lukaku getting back to his best. He certainly had a very underwhelming season last year, so I think there's a lot riding on his shoulders as to how they go and whether Barkley and Cleverley and Delafeo, I suppose, can kind of step up to the bat.
That's very important because Tony last season was not very good for them. If Lukaku goes down, they don't have many options that can lead that front line. Martinez himself said he wanted 3 players. He wanted a centre back and a centre midfielder, but I think he needs a backup striker there.
Yeah.
I think that should be on top of the list.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll move on to the final club being reviewed tonight, which is Swansea. They've gone from strength to strength. I remember sitting here 12 months ago writing them off as, Gary Monk was this unknown manager that he wasn't going to be able to get them very far in the Premier League, and they've really sort of impressed and come out of nowhere to basically take everything in their stride. They change managers and the style stays the same. They bring in great player after great player, and they've certainly continued to do so this off-season. So have you seen it, Malang Panthers?
Yeah, that's right. It's going to be hard to top last season, obviously, and I do remember that last year. We were thinking, club great coming in to manage the club. How are they going to go? But it's turned out pretty well, and it's obviously their best season ever. So, they've done a pretty good off season, and their pre-season results haven't been too inspiring. Just 1-1, 1-1, 1-1, 0-0. So. No wins or anything, but they haven't lost, so that's positive. But yeah, so they're looking all right this season. But yeah, it's going to be hard to top last season, obviously.
How do we see them going, guys? I mean, they brought in Ayew, I think, and have they brought in anyone else?
Tabanu, I think is how you pronounce it. It's from St. Etienne for 3.5. Nordfeldt is a Swedish goalkeeper, so I'm guessing he's just a backup. And then a few young English kids. So that's about it at the moment.
What's everyone's thoughts on Swansea?
Solid. They'll be solid again. I think hard to beat in Wales. They'll probably beat a few of the higher ranked sides, and I think Gary Monk's quite a good manager, and he's got a well-drilled unit there, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them finish again in the top 10.
Yeah, they're just a solid all-round unit. I mean, you'd expect them to finish. I mean, they did finish 16th last season. They'll probably finish around, again, in the mid-table area. I mean, ins and outs have been pretty much like for like.
I think Ayew is a great in, I think. And they've got Key still and Sigurdsson. So, I mean, I think they'll do well. Yeah.
The interesting thing will be to see how Gomez goes with a full season as the number one striker, because obviously with Bonnie moving on, I was sceptical that he could sort of step up and lead the line because he looked pretty iffy to start with, but he certainly started to impress later in the season. And I know there was some talk that he wanted to move away to a bigger club, but obviously he's had a bit of a word from Gary Monk perhaps to settle down and focus, and he certainly seems to have taken that in his stride and is starting to look a better player for them. But there's a lot riding on him now because a lot like Everton, they don't seem to have that many strike options if he were to be injured or out of form or that sort of thing. But they do have good goal-scoring midfielders to rely on as well, like you're saying with Key and Sigurdsson. Shelvey as well can chip in with a few goals. So
Bianski down back as well is solid.
Yeah, and their defence looks very impressive as well. I mean, they've always had quite a bit of a fortress at the Liberty Stadium, so another impressive season for them probably. But I mean, with those sorts of clubs, and we've discussed it with Newcastle and Southampton previously, but you'd expect those sorts of clubs to be sort of eyeing up a good cup run because if you're going to be finishing around that 8th to 13th bracket, surely you make your main focus a cup run. I mean, obviously you don't want to be dragged into a relegation battle, but if you're no realistic chance of relegation, what else is there to play for other than, a couple of $1 million of place money? But
those sweet draft picks.
I mean, but surely those sorts of clubs are aiming for a cup run. I mean, Malang Panthers, you must be the same with Palace, aiming for a good cup run.
Yeah, that's it. Probably like a similar season to last season, but with a cup run, and I'd be pretty happy, really. Because every year recently it's just been out in the first round or second round, pretty much. So, it's definitely what you'd want to once you get a good start. Aiming for a cup run would be good once you got some points under your belt, I reckon. So yeah.
So Babs, but as we sign off, we'll speak of the cup or the shield or whatever you want to call it that was won the other day by Arsenal. Do we read too much into Arsenal's win over Chelsea as to early season form, or is it just sort of more, another meaningless pre-season game?
I think it's good to win, but I don't think many Arsenal fans are getting carried away. If any are, really, I mean, it's good that if you can count Wenger finally got one over Jose, but we beat
must be good mentally speaking.
Oh, definitely, I think so. But I mean, we beat City 3-0 last season, and we played them off the park. But as we saw, our first half of the season wasn't that great. So I don't think it's too much to look into. I think it's good for a mental thing, as you suggested, and keep the momentum up and through a tie. But I don't think it's anything to really go by.
Fair enough. Any other closing thoughts on the Community Shield?
It's okay, I let the Voyo win. He needs to win one game once in a while. But I'm
terrible.
fantastic. I'm fantastic. My accent is fantastic. You're wrong. You've always been wrong. Chelsea will win league and cup.
Thank you. You park the bus and I win the game.
Oh dear.
I can use park bus. You can't even park car.
And the Tinker Man, he'll be back at the left.
I think before we get too carried away, we might call it a night there, boys. So thank you everyone for coming along.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks very much.
No worries.
And especially
Schweinsteiger coming to a field near you.
especially a thank you to Friar Tuck for making a first appearance on the podcast. First of many, I hope.
Thanks very much for having me.
No worries. And thank you everyone at home for listening along. It's been a bumper episode tonight, but we've hopefully gotten through your side and had a decent chat about them. So hopefully you've enjoyed it. And until the weekend, we'll see you on the forums.